In this program, we travel to Ireland for a look at a unique company with a revolutionary product. The company is called Combi Lift, and the product is this multi-directional forklift designed to handle long loads in confined areas.
It is a new concept in design and engineering, combining 3 machines in one. And it is all the brainchild of Martin McVicar and Robert Moffat, 2 of Ireland's up-and-coming entrepreneurs.
Good afternoon, everyone. If I had a longer video, I wouldn't have to speak, which would be great. But thank you to DCU for the invitation here this evening. And I know I was just listening to the ladies earlier regarding startup businesses. Even though I've been involved in a startup company 20 years ago, every day still feels like a startup, because when you're growing, there's always challenges along the way. But of course, as long as you enjoy them challenges, that's what's important. But what I'd like to do is maybe just give you a little bit more background as to maybe in terms of where Combi Lift came from, why we established it. This just probably gives you a little bit of background on myself. I personally, when I was at secondary school, I didn't even want to stay to do my leaving cert. I had no intention to go to university. I was that kind of person. I wanted to work on a family farm at home in Monaghan. But my parents encouraged me. Well, they said the least you should do is go and do the leaving cert. But after my inter-cert, so that's giving away my age, those of you that done junior cert, inter-cert is for the older generation. But when I decided to go back and do the leaving cert, I made up my mind. I said, I'm going to make the most of these 2 years. So I focused on the subjects I enjoyed. And what I felt was, if you focus on the subjects you enjoy, you'll be successful at them. And that was probably the few of the lessons I learned when I was at secondary school. I remember after my inter-cert saying when I was going back to the leaving cert, I wanted to do honours physics. But the secondary school I was in said that we can't put you in the honours level subject or class because you didn't do science for the inter. And I said to myself, I did like mathematics, so I felt, well, you know, physics is something I could thrive at. So I made a deal with the ordinary levels physics teacher and the honours levels physics, so ordinary and the two physics teachers, and I said, if I'm in the best in the class at Christmas in the ordinary level physics, you have to move me into the honours. And of course I made sure I was the best in the class at Christmas, and then I went ahead and I got an A in honours physics. But for me, that small lesson is, if you put your mind to something, we all know everything's possible, as long as you're putting your mind to something you enjoy. Because if you're doing an activity you enjoy, and I'm sure all you know, everyone has a certain sports activity you really enjoy, and the more energy you put into that activity, the more successful you become, the better at it. And it's the same in business or in work. So if you can pick a subject area you enjoy, that's most important, rather than picking a subject area because it gets you the highest points or it gets you the best paid job. That's not long-term sustainable. So it's to try and pick areas that you're going to be successful at and you enjoy is key. When I started in Moffat Engineering, some of the areas, I started on the factory floor, I worked my way into the design office, so I became a design engineer. And at the age of 19, I progressed to become the engineering manager because I enjoyed that technical graphics, technical design side. So I think, you know, as long as you're doing something you enjoy, you can succeed at it and you can progress very fast. With Combi Lift, I worked in Moffat Engineering, and some of you probably have seen forklifts on the back of delivery vehicles. So these red forklifts, I worked in that business for 9 years. In 1997, it was sold to a public company. And with a public company, I personally did not want to work for a public company because I felt that I'd be seen more as a number rather than recognized for what value I brought to the business. And that was the catalyst for me to set up a business on my own. If Moffat Engineering had not have been sold in 97, I might still be working there today. So we all need that little bit of a push or initiative to go and set up a business on your own. But the one advice I would still give to anyone that's thinking of setting up a business, try and get experience in that field rather than just thinking, I want to set up a business in that area because I know it's something I can do. Try and get experience in that field in them early years, because that's really going to stand to you in the long term. And my 9 years experience within Moffat Engineering was very valuable, because not only was I involved in designing the products, but I was traveling a lot internationally, because we were selling our products to 30 odd countries at the time. So I was going to the US, Mexico, designing Moffat Mounties to suit applications. And that travel experience really opened up my vision in terms of the global market opportunity. Because we all think, you know, Ireland's a big market, but in the world stage, we're just really a small drop in terms of the world potential out there. And I think the other thing is, for any of you that are thinking of setting up a business now or in the near future, don't just think if you can set up a successful business, succeed in Ireland, it's not going to be good enough any longer. You need to be setting up a business that you can compete with competitors around the world, because the world's such a small place. And if you don't set it up to compete globally from the start, it's going to give you a lot of challenges in future. So it makes sense to really analyse what's available out there in many of the different countries before you probably invest heavily into any particular product or service. In terms of Combi Lift, when we set up the business in 98, we started in a smaller facility, and then in the last year we've moved to this new facility you've seen on the video, which is a purpose-built manufacturing plant. But 98% of what we produce is exported out of Ireland. And for us, we haven't saturated any markets, so there's still opportunity for growth in many other markets out there. Even though we manufacture forklift trucks, we don't make conventional forklifts, because most of you probably have seen a regular forklift somewhere operating. But when you look at the range of products we make, we very much are designing forklift trucks around industry segments. So we're designing forklift trucks to save our clients' warehouse space. And that's really unique in the forklift truck market, because all the big players, Toyota make forklift trucks, Mitsubishi make forklift trucks, Nissan make forklift trucks, like in the car industry. And if we didn't have something unique and innovative, there's no way we can compete manufacturing in Ireland with them big players. So it's the unique proposition it has been key for us in terms of starting off the business. And I think anyone thinking of setting up a business, you need to be really analyse what is your USP, what is unique about what you're doing. Because if you can't clearly define what's unique about what you're doing, you're going to struggle to really bring that through to maturity. And it's good to really, and I think anyone that's even in business today, to give clarity on what your unique proposition is really valuable, and no matter what stage you are in business. From we started in 1998, the global downturn in 2008-09, we did suffer quite dramatically. We had a 26% drop in output that year in 2009. But thankfully last year, with the addition of new products and diversifying into new markets, our production output last year was treble that what it was prior to the downturn. We invest very heavily in research and development. From day one, we knew we couldn't compete by making regular forklift trucks. So we invest very heavily in R&D. Thankfully, we got great support from Enterprise Ireland towards R&D investment, and we have over the years. And that has really been the backbone to us. It's that investment in R&D from the start. When we currently invest 7% of our revenue goes back into research and development. And that's right from mechanical engineering, electronic engineering, so the whole design portfolio there. And of course, the uniqueness, how we get the product to market as well, is important. Just in terms of visualising our value proposition, a regular forklift truck, if you're handling long goods, takes a lot of space. What's unique about the Combi Lift multi-directional forklift is a forklift that can travel sidewards laterally. So we can double warehouse space in timber yards, steel, handling long goods. And that's really what got us off the ground 20 years ago. So that probably shows visual, a regular forklift with long packs of timber versus what we can do in saving space. And we all know space is becoming more valuable. It doesn't matter what city or what country we're in. And then on top of that, the safety is also a big USP for us, because we can handle that long product much more safer travelling laterally than travelling forward and back like a regular forklift truck. Even though manufacturing forklift trucks is our core business, we see ourselves very much as a solution provider. So we have a team now of 9 engineers that we work on warehouse design. And what we do is we offer this service free of charge. So with all our potential clients, we will actually prepare a warehouse drawing free of charge, showing them that if they purchased our forklift trucks, how many more pallets or packs of timber or packs of steel they could get into their warehouse. And that really is our value proposition, demonstrated black and white, so there's no ambiguity what value we're bringing. It's very clear. So we're making our value proposition very clear to the client what we're going to bring to them if they decide to purchase our product. In terms of Combi Lift, we are exporting. Last year we exported to more than 85 countries. But when we were entering new markets, we didn't just decide, well, we want to go and sell Combi Lifts in India. We really have followed our customers from whatever markets they are in. And I remember distinctly, it was probably about 12 years ago, we were doing business in Australia, and one of our customers, Butler Blue Scope, they were buying our forklift trucks in Australia, and they were setting up a new production plant in India. So my first business activity in India was in Melbourne in Australia, agreeing a deal with an Australian client to order 4 of our forklifts for a plant in Pune in India. So when my first trip to India was not to find a customer, it was actually just to provide service training and give them the comfort that there would be service backup in the local market. And we found that a very cost-effective way of entering new markets. So following our customers wherever they are. In fact, our first sale in China was an American company, JLG. They were using our products in Pennsylvania. They were setting up a plant in Tianjin in China. So that was our first step into China. So by following, in any startup business, if you have an existing customer and you follow where your customers are always growing, and if you can follow them, it's a very cost-effective way rather than just looking to spend money on doing marketing in a new country to hope to get potential business. Following them customers is very cost-effective. For us, because we're manufacturing physical products, shipping them from Ireland to wherever they need to be is important cost-effectively. So part of our design criteria, we design our product to fit inside containers, because it's very cost-effective to ship containers anywhere around the world, and that's our main. But then to make it easy doing business in the local market, we will sell in many local currencies. So we will sell in US dollar, Canadian dollar, Australian dollar. So we make it easy for them customers in them markets to know exactly what it's going to cost in their local currency, what it's going to cost delivered on their doorstep. So we take care of the transportation, the import duties, the customs clearance, the currency fluctuation. So we make it easy for the customer to know exactly what our product's going to cost delivered to their warehouse. And that makes it easier to win business, because we all want to find new customers, but we don't want them to be concerned about currency fluctuation or customs, etc. I just want to use this example. The US market was our fastest growing market last year, but we've invested quite heavily. We have our own parts and service warehouse in Greensboro, North Carolina. We've 31 people employed there now supporting the market. So we've found it the key to grow these bigger markets is to put our own people, you often hear this phrase, boots on the ground. So have more of our own people on the ground as we're developing the bigger potential markets. And if you take the US, like some of the early mistakes we made, back about 15 years ago, we had one major customer in the US, Lowe's, their equivalent to Home Depot or B&Q would be in Ireland or the UK, and they wanted to buy 79 of our forklifts right across the US. And they said, can you find a service partner? So we appointed an importer for the whole country, but it was really a big mistake. It helped that customer, but they weren't close enough to the ground to generate more business. So 18 months later, we dismantled that, and now we set up dealers right across the US, pretty much per state. So we have 49 dealers now across the US. So we break the US market up into segments like you would break Europe into countries, because it's a big potential area in itself. When we started off our business, we started with the Combi Lift multi-directional. Then about 10 years ago, we focused on the warehousing business. So we developed the Aisle-Master range, which is an articulated forklift that allows clients to store pallets in aisles less than 2 metre. A regular forklift truck would need about a 4 metre aisle, a reach truck 3, and we developed this product that will work in a 2 metre space or 6 feet. And that there has allowed us to gain business in the UK with companies like Eddie Stobart Distribution. They run about 130 pieces of equipment. Even Smith Toys in Ireland, they set up a distribution warehouse just north of Birmingham. They run 12 of our units storing toys in warehouses. So that product has now moved us into another market segment. So we started in the long load market, now we're in the palletized goods. But what really is important for us, whatever market segment we enter, we don't want to enter to be number 2 or number 3. We want to be confident if we're entering a market segment that we can become the number 1 player worldwide Now, there's no guarantees we're going to become the #1 player, but we want to be confident we can become the #1 player. It doesn't have to be in year 1, but at least by year 5 or 6, that we can become the #1 player worldwide, because if you can become the #1 player in whatever you're offering, you can charge a premium for it, and you can actually start to create the market. And that really is one of our strategies. So sometimes focusing on a smaller niche, you can be more successful, because the smaller the niche you focus on, the better chance you can be the #1 player in that. That's, in my mind, that's a more successful business proposition than trying to focus on a big area and just to be one player among 10 other competitors. So focusing on that niche is vital in whatever, there be in service business or product sectors. Back about 6-7 years ago, Enterprise Ireland, over a number of years, they offer this program. It's called Leadership for Growth. So I had the luxury of going for 3 weeks to Stanford University, and part of that program was, it was over a 3-week stint, 1 week, and then a few months later a second week and a third week. But part of that Leadership for Growth program, what I found very beneficial, for those of you that haven't travelled to the US yet, we all know, and I'm sure there's a number of people in this audience from the US, US people generally think, are more vocal and are willing to think bigger than us in Ireland. A lot of us Irish, we're very conservative in the way we speak about what we're doing, in terms of how we promote it. And that was one big plus I found about going to the US. It encouraged me as an individual to think bigger. And that probably has sort of set the milestone where we're manufacturing physical product in Monaghan in a production plant. And there's no reason why we can't grow this to $1 billion business in Monaghan, manufacturing all our products there. And our vision as a company at this stage is to double our business every 5 years. So it doesn't matter which year or what month you ask me, what's our plan for the future? Our plan is to double in the next 5 years. But participating in that Leadership for Growth was a big influencer in terms of setting that sort of strategy and plan ahead. Of course, with any business, you know, as we're growing our market segments, finding skilled people is vital for us to grow as a company. So 4 years ago, we were the first company in Ireland to set up what's called an industry-led traineeship. So we set up a local traineeship with Monaghan Institute, and we put 20 graduates a year through that. It's a level 5 engineering traineeship, but 50% of the time is spent in the classroom, 50% on the shop floor with Combi Lift. And that's been a really great initiative from a recruitment point of view and for people development. And that even more recently has encouraged us to work with, we've been working very closely with 22 other engineering companies right across Ireland in the manufacturing sector. So some of the other ones are like McHale Engineering in Galway, Dairy Master, Kerry, Denison Trailers, Dramone Engineering. So we've been working with a number of manufacturing companies across the country in the last 2 years, and we've developed what's called now the Oem Apprenticeship. So it's an original equipment manufacturing apprenticeship, and it's designed around the needs of manufacturing businesses, not just Combi Lift, but anyone that's manufacturing products here in Ireland for export, because it doesn't matter what product you're making today, there's much more electronics in it than there was 10 years ago. So this course is very much based around mechatronics, where you have mechanical and electrics combined, and in terms of future designing products in terms of technology, not only what we're doing today, but for Combi Lift, you know, we're looking towards autonomous driving forklift trucks. So this apprenticeship is really a great value asset in terms of for us to develop the skilled people we're going to need as we continue to scale our business. And this program has been run now both in Limerick, Clare, and in Monaghan, Cav, and ETB. This was taken from a newspaper back in 2015. It was one of my sons, and I happened to see it at home, where it was Dublin and Downey, or I think it was Kerry at the time, were playing. And one of the comments I seen what really struck me is the headline, "Talent wins sometimes, attitude always wins." And really what the message I took from this is, even in our business, we're willing to take people in. If they have the right attitude, we're willing to work with them to develop the skill. And we all know if you put your mind to something, you'll make it happen. So for us, and for the individuals that work in Combi Lift, a positive attitude is important, and if you can bring that to any business, whether it be Combi Lift or any other company you're working with or you're planning to set up, that's really going to help you to grow and progress in future years. Just in terms of probably career opportunities within Combi Lift, you know, we've been very open. We've been taking in a number of students through internships, both from marketing, HR, supply chain, operations, and then on the design, mechanical, electronic, and now mechatronics. But even as we're moving more in towards self-driving vehicles, even on the software side, so we're actively looking to recruit people in internships. And then even in terms of even for project work, you know, final year products, even in projects in terms of PhD students. And we've been trying to collaborate now with a number of universities just in terms of future collaboration as we plan to progress and develop our products for the future as well. I suppose just even in terms of for individuals maybe that's still at college, it's important that you try and stand out from the crowd, because we all know if you're going to look for a job, you need to have some differentiator that's going to make you stand out from the other applicants. If you're setting up a business, you need someone that allows you to stand out. So try and think, and I mean, you don't have to think hard. You all know what you're really good at, and if you focus on what you're really good at, that's going to be your differentiator. Don't try to be a different person from who you are. Focus on what you're good at, and you can make that a success. And I suppose, like running, just I think there's only one more slide after this, but in terms of running your own business, it's anyone that's already been involved in setting up a business, it's not a 9-to-5 job, and you shouldn't set up a business thinking it's going to be a 9-to-5 job. You need to entrench yourself in it. And for me personally, Combi Lift is my hobby, so I don't think of it as a job. I go to it because I enjoy it every day. And that's really what you need to focus on, whatever career, the company you're working for, or the business you're planning to set up. And coming back to that, maybe that last line, whatever product or service, it must be innovative. It must serve a gap in the market. And Me Too, in my opinion, Me Too products, maybe I can't speak with experience about the service sector, but Me Too products produced in Ireland are not sustainable. You know, if you're manufacturing something that someone else is making in another country, it's going to be very hard for it to be sustainable. It needs to be different, it needs to be creative, and your USP needs to be very clear that the customer can see exactly what value it brings to them. For Combi Lift, some of the things that really stood to us is getting our new products to market quickly. So investment in R&D, but being proactive, getting that product to market fast ahead of our competitors is key. And even if you're already set up a business, whatever you're developing, speed to market is also very critical, because if you waste 1 week, 1 month, that's another week or 1 month your competitor has that time ahead of you. I know Brexit probably is a topic on a lot of people's agenda. Is it going to have any downside? Of course, none of us, I think no companies in Ireland want to see it. But some of the preparation we've been doing, we've applied for AEO status, so that's Authorised Economic Operator, and with that it allows more free movement of goods to cross across a border, which will help us both from a UK perspective if there's a hard border, but also shipping into other developing countries like Brazil, China, India, etc. But investment in R&D is key. I suppose in terms of one thing, just in terms of being an entrepreneur, and I'm happy to say it, is you don't need to be a genius to be an entrepreneur. And I think the key thing is, as long as you're doing what you enjoy, you can be called an entrepreneur. And to me, my work's my hobby, and anyone that really works on what they enjoy, that can make a success. And probably just to summarize, when you put your mind down anything, everything's possible. So I'll probably wrap it up like that. I hope I'm not much over time at this stage anyway. So I don't know if maybe Rich, or do you want to, if there's any questions, or do we?
If you have any questions from the floor, we've got 2 or 3 minutes before we wrap up. Any questions? No. Yeah, question here.
The 49 dealers across the US, are they distribution agreements, or what's the nature of the agreement?
Yeah, we would call it a dealer agreement. But there's one thing, and I mean, I know you can speak to several consultants and they'd recommend you should have a legal agreement with each dealer. Our strategy as a business, we've 49 dealers in the US, we've 220 dealers worldwide. Our dealer agreement are one-page agreements. It's very clear, you know, what their target is, what we're doing, what they're doing. It's black and white, there's no ambiguity. It's very simple. And thankfully over the years, we've only had one dealer that we've ever had an issue with. You know, but the one important thing is we renew our dealer agreement annually. It's not an open-ended one, but we set a target annually. So it gives a reason for the two of us to sit across the table annually and review the terms.
Do the dealers take title to the goods or not?
They'll take, you mean when they are delivered, or? Yeah, exactly. Our dealers are like car dealerships. They'll purchase the equipment from us, they'll take title and then they'll send it on to the client. Yeah, perfect.
Just Martin, if you have any parting words for students who are either graduating or now moving into first and second year, what would it be, or something that you might have done differently?
I think one of the advice any students that are still at university or progression and you're interested in summer work, and I know we all like summer work that we can earn some money, but what's more important is that you try and identify a summer job in a business that's relevant to the field you're studying. Because if you can get any experience in the field you're studying, in an area you're interested, that's really going to help you long term, not just during your university degree, but for finding the right career job afterwards. Because I know as an employer, and most other employers out there, we all know employers that advertise for new people to recruit, you don't see them advertising, I'm looking for someone with knowledge. Businesses are looking for people with experience, expertise, experience in that industry. So the more experience you can get in that field, that's really going to make you more employable, and it's going to help you to develop your career or your future opportunity in setting up a business as well.
Thanks, William, Martin. Thanks very much, Martin, and very, very best luck with all your success as you move forward.